Okay, hello, good afternoon, and welcome to our presentation, our eCampus presentation on academic honesty for the eCore instructors. This is a very important presentation, and we do hope that this is informative and helpful. Of course, it's important for all of us to realize when we're talking about academic honesty, we're really talking about the integrity of the whole educational enterprise. And so those of us that get up early and work hard in our job, we want our students to be able to learn what they need to learn, get the skill that they need so they can move forward with their education. That is the primary reason why they are involved in the enterprise. But whenever there's a dishonesty element, that is a concern of all of us. And so what we want to try to do in this presentation is to let you know there is a plan in place. It makes sense. We can all follow it. And the more we follow it, the more we could hedge out the negative experiences that happen by students as they're involved in their effort. So we're modeling what we want. And when we need to take action, we need to do that. And we encourage folks to take action in the area of academic honesty. And let's be honest, the student really knows that they need to be honest, and they have policies, but maybe they have not read them, so this is something they need to be reminded of. This is very important for our courses to have the meaning and the value we want them to have. Okay, it's a quick speech out of the way. Now, a little bit of overview. All students are expected to recognize and uphold the standards of intellectual and academic integrity. But that's obvious. But we are the leaders in making sure that that happens. Now this next statement is probably the most important thing that we all need to understand right now, and that is this. A confirmed case, confirmed academic honesty violation cases, they must be reported by the instructor to the student's home institution using the form that we're going to show you in just a little bit. It is located in SEEDS, and this is becoming more familiar with you as you're working with eCore, and we'll show you the details of that, very easy to follow. A couple things if you'll notice here, the eCore policies and procedures, this is for the instructors, and then down here are the eCore student guide policies. By the way, if you'll go to your course syllabus, you will know that the academic policy is already loaded in the bottom of your syllabus. Students may or may not have looked at that carefully, but that is important to review, and you may want to at least look at it after this presentation to make sure the information matches up with what we're saying. Okay, a little bit of overview. But remember, confirmed cases, this must be reported for eCore instructors. All right, comment or questions thus far? Okay. Now it's important that we all know what we're talking about when we're talking about violations. So these are cases of academic dishonesty. Let's review them, it won't hurt us. Plagiarism is presenting another person's work as our own. Cheating, receiving help, unauthorized help. And this is a big potential for wrongdoing in eCore classes because they're so flexible and convenient. And I know this is a big temptation for students, especially in my area, mathematics. But that's cheating. You know, you're supposed to take a test without using notes, or you're supposed to take a test and not have anyone else in your room. We have an idea what that means. Unauthorized collaboration, that would be for a math test, having someone sitting by giving you advice while you're taking the test. But we all know that because of social media, this is a real temptation. And again, that's what we want to do. We want to know what are those violations, so if we are aware of them, we could report it. Falsification, misrepresentation misrepresenting the materials. You're saying you did it, but you lied about it. Multiple submissions. This is one that I needed to be reminded of. I had a student did a project on a paper in their high school class and wanted to know if they could submit it for me in my statistics class. Okay. Well, you may think every case of that would be a violation, but depending upon the instructor and what the requirements are, that could possibly be a multiple submission that's okay. But we know that this can happen a lot with students using papers for 2 different assignments. And so we are aware of that, and we need to ask questions at that time. All right, unauthorized distribution of copyright material. Now, we all need to, be aware. I'm repeating it because it needs to be repeated. As instructors, we are somewhat free on our use of copyright materials when we're talking in our class and working with our students. And I know why that is the case. But when we're talking about the student doing their work, they're not in that case situation like we are, and they need to be aware, and they need to be trained to be able to make note of the copyright on the material that they are using and document that. And of course, there's some other possibilities of academic dishonesty. All right, now to get help with this particular slide, because this is a great visual on the procedure, I'm going to have Ashley Reese, who is a, tell me your title again one more time.
Collaborative Program Support Specialist.
Okay, I had that in my mind before. So she's a specialist, and she's aware of this procedure very well. And so I'm going to let her explain it to you, and I think this will help you out.
Hello, everyone. Again, my name is Ashley Reese, and we created this flow chart because academic honesty does involve quite a few different steps and then quite a few different decision points for the instructor and the student, and we want to be sure that it's easy to follow. After this presentation, we will be including a quick guide for instructors, and it does have the visual that we have here as well as the policy written out step by step, which is also located in the student guide and the policies and procedures. But we included the visual here because it does help you kind of see how everything ties together. So first things first is you think that there may be an academic honesty violation that has occurred. And that can really be any of those things that we saw on the previous slide, as well as other incidents. If there's something that you're not sure of, you think might be a violation, you're definitely welcome to reach out to us and we can assist you with determining if that meets the standards or not. But your first step once you discover a violation or a potential violation is to reach out to the student. And we do say go ahead and reach out to the student in GoView. If it's something that's questionable or you really think that you need some advice from us, you can of course include eCore at westga.edu and we can have that on file as well, but that's completely up to you. But definitely reach out to the student. At that point, the student then has 7 calendar days to respond to the instructor. At this point, sometimes we find that what looked like an academic honesty violation is really a misunderstanding of the material, something to that effect. So that's why it's so important to go ahead and reach out to the student and get their feedback on what might, what might be a violation. It does sometimes happen that they misunderstood the material, and that can be handled by the instructor and the student within the course. Once you receive that response from the student, the instructor reaches a decision point. So if you determine at this point that it was a misunderstanding, the student needed more information about the policy, whatever that you determine, for whatever reason a student does not need a consequence in result of this foreseen violation, then no further action is necessary. And this is the big point for eCore with a recent policy change, is that there is no consequence. You do not have to fill out that form and report it through that form to the institution. the point where you have confirmed that an academic honesty violation has occurred, then you do need to assign a consequence, whether that's a 0 on a paper or 10% off of the quiz or whatever that consequence might be. And that may depend on the assignment and other things within the course. So once it is decided that there will be a consequence applied, the student is required to notify the instructor is required to notify the student and go ahead and enforce those consequences. And that is the point where the academic honesty violation form needs to be completed in Cs as well. And what that form does is it informs eCore of the violation, and it also will be distributed out to the institutions to notify them of the violation as well. Excuse me. And then once you've filled out that form, there's no further official action that is needed. You may have eCore administration reach back out to you in the future about this particular case if the student does decide to appeal the violation, which they of course have the right to do within 7 calendar days. And that is a related but separate procedure, I suppose we would call it. Because the student can go back, and there's a whole other group of actions that happens if an appeal is filed. And that is outlined in the quick guide that you will receive along with the recording of this session. And it's also included in the eCore student guide as well as the policies and procedures. And just another little note here, there is a key down here for this visual. The blue highlights your instructor responsibilities, the green is the student responsibilities, and then the gray is the no further action. So that's when you know that you're finished. So this helps to outline the procedures. Of course, like I said, there's a little more detail in the written out version as far as the response times and things like that. So you'll definitely want to take a look at that policy and the procedures that you will receive after this. Also, as Bob mentioned, it should be in your syllabus. It'll be in that eCore student guide and the eCore policies and procedures as well. So I'm going to pause right here just to see if anybody has any questions on this visual or any of the details related. Okay, if not, Bob, take it away.
All right, very good. That was very well explained. A couple things I would want to, I think, important to mention. Where my pointer is right there. Let's see, Ashley, does your pointer go away? How does that work? Okay. So that spot right there, if you have been teaching for a while, you have been there. And the important message is we want to support what you think the best judgment is. And the good news is you have the freedom to make a decision, and I do that all of the time, and no further action. A lot of times I just communicate to the student, okay? You're just using your experience and intuition. And this next part about making the report, it is very easy to see the need when you need to do it, and it's easy to do. And that's what we want to be able to provide for you, the faculty. And this last part right here is that's really kind of out of your hand, okay? You know, for the most part, the student wants to pursue that, and I see that happening in very few cases. So keep all of that in mind. All right, before we leave this slide, I want to open it up again for questions or comments. Okay, you may have one at the end. Now, what we want to do is take a moment and talk to you about how to do the reporting of the academic dishonesty. You're going to go to your home page, scroll down on the left side, faculty resources, go and find the login for SEEDS, that little portal. You're going to go over here to the faculty forms. You're going to select over here your academic dishonesty. And one thing I like about eCore, it makes it easy to do these reports. It's not filling out a bunch of paperwork. Then after you do that, this form is going to pop up. And I need to point out a couple things about the form. It is a little small, I understand it, but these items that you see are just reminders of the procedure that Ashley just talked about. And if you're at the point making this report, you have already been through that. It's just a good idea just to read over those 5 or 6 items. Okay? And then there's a reminder here, which we just talked about. And basically what you're going to do is just going to fill out this part, which is very easy to do. This wants to know what the activity was about. You're filling out some check boxes here. Some more here. And yeah, I think there's something here you got to fill out. And then down at the bottom, you fill out whatever you need to and submit the form. And, you know, having been through these forms before, they work well. It's easy to do. It doesn't take you too much time to do it. And there you did your part, and you're ready to move on. So that's how to report academic dishonesty in SEEDS. So this slide's just reminding you, please contact us. Even if you have a silly question, you've heard it, you looked at the course guide, something happens next week, you're not too sure, please feel free. You could ask a colleague. You could if you don't get an answer that you know is going to help you, just contact us, and we will do our very best to get back as soon as possible. So please keep that in mind. You could call us here, or you could use that eCore CI, that stands for Curriculum and Instruction, our support for the faculty. That's the way to contact us. We can get back to you. Okay, let's see. A couple things I wanted to say before there are any questions. Use the content of what we provided to help you. Reread the policy in your syllabus if you need to. I did that today and it was helpful. There are some good links there that work, and that's helpful, so you could go back and you can kind of go a little further if you want to. If something happens, your conscience is bothering you about a student, we encourage you to act on it. We want to have your back on that issue because we're all fighting to keep our quality product a quality product. Ask us for help, and as also in these other webinars, we'll send a link out to you very soon so that you could listen to this again if you need to. We're also going to send a guide along with the PowerPoint to help you as well. So that's a lot of information on this topic. We wanted to get that to you. All right, we have several people with us here. I want to give the last opportunity for questions or comments.
Okay, we have a question in the chat box. Can you expand on some of the consequences you may have applied in the past? And I guess that they are tailored to the incident reported. And that is correct. We've seen things or different consequences such as a 0 on an assignment or a paper, 10% off of the quiz. Sometimes the student is allowed to retake a quiz or rewrite a paper with a certain penalty, 10, 50, 75% off. I mean, it can really just, it's dependent on the violation. If it's something small, say for instance, the student did not cite a resource, and when the student was contacted, the answer was, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I completely forgot to add that in. I have the information. I just forgot to attach it to my paper. And you believe that that is true from the student, then perhaps you allow them to go ahead and submit that information with 10% off of the assignment. It really just depends on your communication with the student, the assignment, and what the violation is. If it's something small that could potentially be a misunderstanding on the student's part, then okay, we can kind of work with you there. But if it's something where the student clearly it was a major violation. Things can even go so far as to the student is given an F in the course and you know, restricted from or dropped from the course or whatever the case may be. But it can really range. And if you ever need assistance with determining what an appropriate consequence might be, if you're really not sure, you know, if you're being too strict, not strict enough, those sorts of things, we can definitely assist you with those questions. Obviously, that is left up to the instructor as much as possible, but we can give you more information on those specific instances and what we've seen happen in the past and kind of help you, or not necessarily give you an answer, but guide you a little bit in those situations if you think you need help. Does that help?
Well, Dr. Patino, okay, very good. Having been there, you know, with you and teaching, if I felt a student, sometimes a student uses a calculator they shouldn't be using, and I find out about it, I will have a conversation with the student, and if I feel the student is repentant, I'm gonna side on that, and I'm not gonna think everybody's out there trying to copy information. But I have had students that would download a quiz and then on the second and third attempt try to get a higher grade, and that was not a good idea. I've had some cheating that happened, and so I will just say, in just a summary, our job is to help the student to be honest and to apply some type of consequence. And I encourage you to act on it because we are protecting our product, but we don't have to overdo it. And you may be a little shy about doing this, and I will say, just after you do a few of these, you'll kind of get a good sense of when you need to be assertive and when you need to just kind of work with the student. And that is the type of quality faculty member we're looking for, because that ensures the integrity of what we're doing, and that's what we're all about. Quality education. Good question. Anything else? Okay, I'm going to stop the recording and we'll send this out later. I want to thank each and every one of you for taking some of your time to consider academic honesty so we could just keep our quality going the way it needs to go. Thank you so much.